Hi, this is Beth Colby, and you're listening to Two Disabled Dudes.
Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. All right, everybody, welcome to a special episode of the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. The man who has joined us today, he's got an amazing story of survival. And there's a very interesting medical twist for his life on the horizon. Jason Levy, welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Oh, thank you so much to the both of you. It's an honor to be with you.
All right, as we get started here, why don't you tell our listeners your story?
Okay, well, going back to January 2017, it's kind of started on a series of events. I got in 3 car accidents in 4 days, which tells you what kind of driver I am. The first 2 were just freak accidents. I fell asleep on my way to work at 4 in the morning, and I lived up in the mountains in Santa Cruz, California. And I was going to work, and I went to work at like 4 a.m., and I hit a tree, and luckily I fell asleep and hit the tree. That tree saved me from rolling down the mountain the first time. So it saved my life, but it hit my head, and I felt pretty good. So, I tried to shake it off. I got a rental car and went to work the next day and got rear-ended at a high rate of speed. And that caused whiplash. And then the 4th day, I just hit everything in sight in my neighborhood because I didn't realize I had a problem, And so I never missed a day of work that I can remember. And all of a sudden, I was on disability for 4 months. So same year, April 27th, I lived on top of a mountain. It was a fantastic view and everything. And I was just bored of sitting around. I was a type A personality, and I wanted to get something accomplished. So I had fallen a lot of trees to improve my view, but there was one that was stubborn and I hadn't gotten down. So I said, I'm just going to finish off that darn tree. So I got an axe and I started chopping at it. And it was on like an 80 to 85 degree hillside, right? And I don't exactly remember because I was passing out from the car accidents. If I passed out or just slipped and don't remember that part. But down the hill I went and over boulders and fallen trees, and it was 430 feet.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So when I got to the bottom, I was out cold for, I think, a half an hour to an hour. I woke up and I couldn't move because at the time I didn't realize I had broken my back in 3 places and broken my neck. And I could only see a little bit. I can't see anything to the right out of both eyes. And that was caused by another traumatic brain injury that caused bleeding into my brain and caused strokes and infarcts. And so I woke up, didn't know where I was. It was the strangest feeling. And then there's a God component in there too. I felt I heard from God, and I wasn't religious going into that. He calmed me down, and I reached down, and I couldn't believe I had my phone with me. And I went to call my wife at the time, and couldn't see the numbers, so I called 911. And an hour later, there's 3 helicopters flying. They found me via GPS because I didn't know where I was. They found me via GPS. There's 3 helicopters flying over me and about 40 EMS and firefighters looking for me. Finally, a young fireman came down and said, "Sir," I go, "Yeah, how's your day going?" And he kind of chuckled. And then he said, "You were mangled up against a tree a little bit." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "I can feel that." He goes, "Well, it's the only thing saving you from falling another about 600 feet. Wow. So, yeah. So it was too windy to get me up via helicopter, so they had to pull me up inch by inch up that hill. It took about 3 hours, and then they flew me to Stanford. And so my injuries were, as I mentioned, a broken neck in 2 places, broke my back, lower, upper, and middle, destroyed my left shoulder, 3 broken ribs, and then I was cut all over every inch of my body, it felt like, and then the head injuries, of course, which I went into already. So here's where I'm at. So I consider myself very fortunate to be here, and I think we'll get in that later, but all my priorities in life changed a lot.
On this show, we talk a lot about, and we interview a lot of people that have different stories of some really challenging and devastating circumstances. And we've talked to people that have had spinal injuries, and you might be the first real brain injury individual we've had on the show. But not comparing anybody's situations, you have certainly sort of dumped a whole lot of circumstances that are really difficult and challenging.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that this was all in a very short span of time.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, Jason, and like you said, we'll get more into your injury or more into how life has changed.
Yeah.
But in that season, can you recall what was going on through your head? Like, I would think the world's against me, in 4 or 5, a couple of months, a couple of days. What were you like? How did you continue getting up and going after that tree in the first place?
Well, it's funny because I was married 21 years. I had a son from a former marriage, and then I raised my wife's 3 boys, and they're all in their 30s now, I think. Yeah, 30s now. And so my wife had told me several times that I was going to fall down that hill and kill myself. And I used to joke and say, well, if I die, just know I died where I loved, because I did love my view, but I didn't really mean it. And then, so after I was in 20 days in ICU at Stanford, I got home and I was barely walking. I was using a walker and going about 10 steps, before I had to stop. You know how that goes. And then about, I would say less than a month later, my wife says, I can't do this. And we broke up, and we're divorced now. And, I have to take some ownership. Nobody's perfect. I had some flaws. It wasn't anything major, but that's the reason she gave me for leaving. But as I said, everyone had flaws. She had some of her own. And I at that moment, I felt very scared and very alone. And she's a nurse, and I could have used that help, much less the moral support. But so all of a sudden I went from, we'll talk about what I was doing for a living, but I was making a lot of money, to disability. I'm sure you've heard that story before. So that was a shock. And then and then when all of a sudden I was going to be all alone, the kids were grown up and out of the house. So I was 30 miles from the closest town. I still don't drive because of my vision. And talk about feeling alone, right? So splitting, going through a divorce, having to sell a house, all that. I just remember one day, it's sink or swim time, and give up or fight through this. And I guess you can see me now. So I decided to fight through it, and I'm really glad I did. So.
Can you tell our listeners about, you just mentioned your previous job.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what you were doing work-wise before the accidents?
Sure. So Santa Cruz, if you don't know, is a coastal town about 35 miles south of San Jose area. And I used to work in Silicon Valley. And I worked in the Silicon Valley. I did high-tech sales. It's called a contract manufacturer, and what that does is Apple or any company, very few actually build their product anymore. They send it to somebody else to build it. So that's what I sold, was that service, and my customers were mostly defense contractors, which are and DoD customers. So I really I always wanted to serve, and I guess this is my way of doing it and building products that save the war fighter and stuff. So I really took a lot of pride in doing that. So I was really successful for same job for 20 years. And so that was tough. You know, some of the things going through that, that was also a very hard thing to deal with when you go from, you know, doing something that you were passionate about and were very successful at, and not all of a sudden hearing the accolades and you know, my ego kind of dropped a little bit. And that's just, you know, one of many things you have to fight through, realizing your life is forever changed. And, sure. To help me get through that, I had a moment, you know, where I've had a lot of moments of deep depression and considering options, quality of life and everything. And once I decided to say goodbye to the old Jason and embrace the new Jason and be the best person I could be, I started back on my track, you know, and it just made me want to work harder and not feel so bad about who that I lost the old Jason, but I'm better in many ways, as far as my compassion and love for everybody and not worrying about the small stuff and, you know, living for the moment instead of, you know, I was never living in the moment. So go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. But I'm curious what, we do want to talk about your procedure coming up, but before we do that, can you give us a glimpse of what life is like right now? You told us about your divorce. Where, how are the kids? What does life look like for you today? Okay,
so I knew I couldn't afford California anymore.
No, none of us can.
And I do have a great brother and his great family here, and that's been very supportive. And the weather is warmer. I moved to Arizona, and it's obviously warmer, and it helps on my all my broken bones and all that because they were hurting in the winter. But so that was a big move. I was in California all my life, so I'm leaving all my friends and family there and moving to a new state, knowing not a single person except for my brother. And also, and then the rent's so much cheaper here that I got this huge 4-bedroom house that I don't need by myself. And so it's been interesting, but I would have loved gone back to work, and I haven't given up hope on that. But I have, some of my symptoms from my traumatic brain injury are very lengthy, actually. So I lost my sense of taste, my sense of smell, my eyesight. I talked about. I have horrible migraines and cluster headaches. Never had those before. My attention span's very short, as you'll probably pick up before this call is done. And my memory, any cognitive thinking, I have trouble word searching. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes, I have troubles getting out any words. So as I said, I went down from making several $200,000 or $300,000 to, my disability money. And that was a huge adjustment, but luckily I put away a few shillings for investment, retirement. And so that is helping me get through that. But it's been interesting. I after my wife left, and I'm 60, by the way, and I didn't trust anymore, right? Somebody leave me in that situation. It's left a mark on me where I started dating lots of women, and I wasn't treating them bad, but I wasn't treating them seriously and giving them the respect they deserved. And also, my behavior is different too. I, along with the things I mentioned, I'll say whatever's on my mind. They call that a filter. I lost my filter. So that's nice in some ways, and it cost me dearly in other ways. I got stories on that. But so I did find a wonderful person that I'm dating now. and I've been dating her 17 months. She's been a godsend. And if I didn't have her, I'd be in really bad shape because I can't read. My eyes work against me, so the sentences are jumbled. So I can't fill out forms and disability, all those forms and all that stuff. She's helped me. I've seen like 50 different doctors in the last 3 years, and about probably close to somewhere around 150 to 200 doctor's appointments. And I've seen lots of specialists that we could go on and on that. But
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just an observation that I am seeing in your story. You have these two tracks where you were on this track of being this big executive with a big paycheck, and then you talked about as soon as you accepted that you were on a different track, I think what you realize is that you didn't change, just your circumstances changed. And I think that is a really neat thing to realize, like we talk about on this show a lot, and our tagline for the show, life beyond circumstances, right? Like, at some level, you realize that you were not a different Jason Levy. You were just on a different track. Right. And I also love the fact that you said, you started going to church, probably connecting with people, with the community, and you started counseling. And so sometimes in some of our circumstances, those are the tools we need, right, to bring out, to realize our true selves in a different circumstance. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way I engage with people now, I was always a nice guy. I think I'm funny. Maybe nobody else does. But engaging and stuff, but it's at a whole different level now. So one of the things that, above all my injuries, and I've only named a few, my most debilitating issue is, they call it neurofatigue. And what that is imagine doing your SATs and running a marathon in the same day. That's how I feel almost every day. So sometimes I'm good first. It's a little better than it used to be, but for the first 2 years, certainly, I had maybe 2 hours of battery life a day. And when it drained, I had to stop. I wanted to lie down no matter where I was, in the street even. That's how tired I was. And and sometimes it would last weeks. I'd be in bed for a couple of weeks because I was so tired. So I came across this case study totally by accident on Facebook, and it happened to be at Stanford. And I happen to know a lot of people at Stanford because of all my time there. And they accepted my application. And what it is called DBS, or deep brain stimulation. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing it for Parkinson's patients for a while. And it's helped them stop shaking and think better. And so they're just doing it now on traumatic brain injuries. So along with Stanford is Cornell and Harvard and some other colleges. And it's I feel honored to be part of it. So without getting too graphic, they're going to drill 2 holes to the center of my head, put a couple probes there, run wires down my neck, back of my neck, into a pacemaker device, and then it's going to run electricity to the probes and into certain specific areas that will hopefully help me with fatigue and my cognitive issues I battle. So it was a tough decision. I have 4 brothers that I love dearly, and my girlfriend and my son and I are best friends. He lives in Vietnam now and has a film production company. That's a whole nother story, but I love him dearly. And all of them, just about, except for one, said I shouldn't have it. It's too risky. All this.
Oh yeah. What exactly is the risk of this? You said it's been done in Parkinson's a lot, but what are the risks?
Well, I've asked several times for the statistics on, and I think there's been thousands of for what condition I forgot already. What did I say?
Parkinson's.
Yeah, Parkinson's. They've also done for epilepsy and some other things, and nobody will share that data with me. But they assure me it's not a huge risk. But anytime you get 2 holes drilled to the center of your head, you have to worry a little bit. But I have turned religious, and I prayed on it a lot. And Christmas morning, I woke up and I don't think it was an accident that morning I said, I'm going to do this. And because although I enjoy my life and everything, it can be very hard sometimes, my quality of life. And I just felt I'd rather live it to its full capacity rather than not be able to do the things I want to get done. I would love to start a motivation speaking tour of some kind, and just to help really people. I also learned along the way, because I do tell my story a lot, and I was accused of just wanting to tell my story for my ego or whatever, for attention. And I came to realize, I started thinking about that, and then I came to realize it wasn't that at all. It was that we all have stories. You guys have stories, but almost everybody's going through something. And some are harder than others, but there's a lot of people like traumatic brain injury. You're 3 times more likely to commit suicide than if you didn't have one. And I thought about it, and I want to help those that are thinking about it and get them to get through the day and say you can do it. I did it. There's people off worse than me, but there's it's a pretty good story, and I want to be able to counsel anybody that needs just an ear, or someone to talk to.
Well, I love what you mentioned there in terms of everybody having something they're going through. You never know what somebody's up against, whether, it's something as major and detrimental and life-altering as injury or disability or diagnosis, or just something as simple as a unexpected bill or a car that broke down. Everybody's got stuff, and you said it earlier, we're all human. We're all going to face different challenges. So I love the fact that you're willing to talk about your story on any platform, because at the end of the day, you never know who it's going to affect, who it's going to touch, who it's going to encourage. And I think that's part of our responsibility in life, is sharing a bit of our stories for the sake of reminding others that it'll be okay. Things will go on, and tomorrow's a new day.
I sense that's why you guys do this. I don't think you're doing it for the fame and fortune as much as trying to help other people, right?
There's definitely neither of those.
So, Jason, let's actually dig into that just a little bit. You talk about TBI support group that you're involved with, and I know that it's very important to you. And Sean and I talk a lot about building community on this podcast, and we think it's probably the most important thing when dealing with a disability. So Absolutely. Can you tell us about how that how you got involved and how it affects your life?
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that brought up another thought that I'd like to express. So here I am alone. I have all these disabilities, my sight and all these things. Where do I start? What's available to me? What do I do? And I just kept calling around, and then I heard I was going to Stanford all the time, and then this one of my doctors mentioned there's this TBI support group at this school that's put on by the medical students. And so I started attending that, and some of those people have become very dear to me, and they embraced me, and we know everything about that's going on in each other's lives, and we cry and we laugh, and more than anything, TBI, and there's a lot of other conditions, is called the invisible illness. And like you guys, you look, you look normal. I look somewhat normal, and but if I get accused, well, you look fine. Why can't you go to work? Why can't you do this? And a lot of people feel that too, and that's a real big issue when people think you're faking it. Or I would like nothing more than be able to work or do more activity than I do now. But so when I moved to Arizona, I'm the only one they conference in out of the area via Skype or whatever. And so I still belong to that one every other week. And then I've done some in Arizona, and I'm getting involved with the Arizona Brain Alliance of Arizona. I'm actually going to be featured in their magazine coming up. But again, and then my low vision, I found a low vision and blind center. And again, great people just struggling. Most of them are blind. And so it made me feel less sorry for myself just because of what their challenges, and I became a volunteer there. And so, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just, if your family, even your the ones that love you most, don't understand, then you need to get help. You need to find people that understand what you're going through, and I think everybody needs that,
Yeah, I love that you say, I'm okay with the phrase "get help."
Yeah.
But I love that you're quantifying it with just connecting with other people.
Yes, sir.
Some people might think get help means hire a lawyer or certainly hire a psychologist.
Yeah.
And although they're very helpful, and I've done professional counseling, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just meeting a friend for a coffee and talking through life. It's just getting help is so much more than actually hiring a professional. It's just connecting and living openly and authentically with the people in your world. So I like that you've kind of thrown out both scenarios there.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to use humor as much as I can. Like when I spoke in front of Stanford one time, and I could see people kind of feeling down and sorry for me, and I would just say, "Hey, look, I'll find more work. I'll be a Uber driver and offer 50% off, or an NFL referee, or I forget the other one. But you just got to make light of it, and then people relax and let their guard down, and that's what works for me anyway. Beautiful. I'm sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's been an incredible conversation, and we want you to let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can connect with you. Maybe on social media and your website and stuff like that.
Yeah, my website is in process and not up yet, but it's if you contact me via email right now, and I'm also have a YouTube channel. So my email is Jason Levy, Levy 430, which represents how many feet I fell, at Yahoo. And then my YouTube channel, which has a couple other podcasts, and if I'm allowed, I'll put this one on. And you can look me up at Jason S. Levy, and you'll find me there.
Awesome. Well, Jason, you have provided some really, really incredible perspective. I love seeing the smile on your face, knowing all the stuff that you've gone through. And, it's just really encouraging to me, and I know a lot of our listeners will find encouragement in your story. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. It's a genuine smile, just so you know.
Yeah, we love seeing it. So, Jason, I'll echo everything Kyle just said. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Probably skipping church today to make it happen.
Yeah,
we're just really grateful that you're willing to take it on the phone.
Halfway dressed for church.
Nice.
But
thanks, Jason.
Yeah, hopefully after I get a book done and my surgery and stuff, we can chat again and see how things are going.
We want to encourage you to check out our show notes where we have linked some of Jason's things his journey is a crazy one that we are certainly keeping an eye on and following his life. So we encourage you to do the same. He's got quite a story, and I love his perspective and his positive energy.
Sean, I agree with that.
We've come to a point where it's time to close it out with some thank you notes. So up first will be me, since I'm talking. Kyle, today I'm going to say thank you to a mutual friend of ours, Alan Thompson. We both got connected to him through some other mutual friends out in Dallas. Alan is an incredible videographer who has made some amazing videos that tell some incredible stories. But what I love about Alan, and the reason why I'm saying thank you to him, is he's obviously built their relationship so far beyond just business. He's messaged us on Instagram. He's sent me messages on Facebook. He's obviously concerned and a good friend. In fact, recently he reached out just saying, hey, hope you guys are okay. I'm worried about my FA friends in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm saying thank you to Alan for connecting with us through business first, but then continuing a friendship over the course of a couple years. So Alan, thank you. Thank you for listening. And of course, thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, that's something that we can all learn from, right? Like, yeah, sure, let's take care of business, but let's take care of each other too.
Sure.
So I agree with that one. That's great. Mine is for Mr. Dr. Lynch. Mr. Dr. Lynch. No. Mr. Dave Lynch. He is a prominent doctor in the FA space. In fact, I believe he sees more Friedreich's ataxia patients than anyone in the world. I don't want to discredit any of the other amazing Friedreich's ataxia doctors out there, but Dave happens to be mine that I see periodically, and so
well, I think
say
he's also kind of the main. Like, I feel like everybody consults with him at some point. So
yeah, he's a key opinion leader worldwide for Friedreich's ataxia for sure.
All right, sorry, I interrupted you. What did you write?
Dr. Lynch, thank you for taking care of me and the rest of the FA community. You tackled the toughest questions with incredible perspective, insight, and humanizing humor. You are probably the smartest person I know, and you treat all your patients and families like friends. Thank you for being you.
Can I add that I am thankful that he doesn't ever do his hair either? Like, you're talking about a guy that just doesn't really care about some of the small things, and I feel like he's just one of those guys. He's down to earth. Like, I don't think
he's focused on what really matters.
Yeah, I love his energy. So cool. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Dr. Lynch and Alan. We'd encourage you to do the same. Obviously, expressing gratitude is important. So whether you do it in a journal or sending a text, just express it.
That's right. All right. Thanks, Sean. And until next time, keep living with urgency. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our friend and audio producer, Jake Tompkins.